Hi, it's Joseph here at Edge Dynamics, and I'm gonna make a video restoring this 7-day set. Zoom back out a bit so you can see what we're dealing with. Right, so I just started this the process a while ago, and then I thought, stop, let's make a video. So here we are. And what I'm doing, you see each razor, I personally I haven't measured it yet. I think that's bigger than a 6/8, so I have to check that out later. And I can show you the tang. Just zoom in a bit. And they're all pretty well. That's a NOS condition to me. There's no hone wear. They've all got like kind of manky, rusty. So it's not major restoration, but I'm gonna have to take them all apart. So what I've been doing is, so far, is I've just come along with a small file and just flattened the pins on all of the sides, so 4 on this one, and I've been drilling. So far I've just marked with the drill centering bit, so I just put little holes in all of them to give me, so if I'm drilling this one out and it's not quite centering, I've got another chance, because I want to save the collars on all of these and replace them. Plastic scales, they've got this days of the week, they've all got days of the week scribed in, and it's not a bad set. They're full hollow, but they're really nice. So this one I've just flattened the pins, and I haven't yet done any drilling. I saved this last one to do it on camera, just to show you the process. So we'll cut to that section. Thanks. Right, we just use a bit of paste. And there we have both collars came off there. Just do the wedge. And that should be the other two, which just fell. I hear that. That's the other two, and that's ready to be unpinned. Right, unpinning. So the way I tend to do my unpinning is with this piece of equipment. It's a chopping board. I've got some holes drilled, and I'll line up where I'm going to want the pin to come through on, and depending on what's going on, I can just add a bit of tape, just try and keep it in place. And I use a centre punch and a hammer And plastic scales, vintage plastic scales, I found are some of the most difficult to unpin, because they just break. I've broke more of these than anything else. I shouldn't really mention that, should I? But they break really easily. So let's see what happens. That's good. So I don't want to go right through. All I want to do is get the razor out of there. It's a rescue job. And what's left here, I don't want to try and knock that through, because I don't know what's going on with the top end there. It's not in a great condition. So what I'll do is I'll cut it and then just push through the clean part. Well, there you go, just went through. So that's done. Coming to the wedge end, it's like there's a bit of a collar there, so this one probably had two collars, one as like a reinforcement. So I'll try and get the remnants of that one up. Or actually no, that's the side that I quit on, wasn't it? This is the side that I did. And two, it has remnants of a collar there. We'll try and remove that as best we can. Alright, let's just see what happens. Let's give it a tap. Okay, so there's the part of the collar that was left, or the secondary collar. So same again, we'll take that off, lead wedge, there's nothing to really cut off there, I'll just knock it through. And that's it. So these, I'll sand them down and I'll buff them, and we'll do a job on those. Take these collars, yeah, they're doubled up, the collars. So you've got a collar, then you've got like a support collar or washer underneath. It's really just two collars. So keep those. And I have to try and get this collar. This is what's left. So it's a bit difficult because I'm leaning around a camera, but oh, there you go. That came off quite easily. And just nip the end off. Get that off. There you go. There's another two. There's two there. And I'll do that on all 7. And I'll see you soon. As you can see, I've got all 7 razors lined up. They're all unpinned. I'm going to put them back with the scales and the wedges exactly how they came. And over here I've got a pile of the collars for when it's time for putting it back together. I think the next part I'll do is green polishing compound. It does cut, but it doesn't really leave much in the way of scratches. So maybe an emery compound would be better, but that will leave marks, and I think some of these blades are going to come up as a mirror finish, and if I use anything too coarse it will affect that. So we'll go with the green compound, see how they look. Some of them are going to have to go on the grinder for these kind of pivot areas where there's rust, but we'll know more after the buffer. and that came out pretty well. You see it's got some remnants of one pit right there, but I won't be taking that out because I'll have to do something to the entire face to get rid of that. So we'll do a bit more polishing on there. There's some more there as well. A couple of light pits, but that's fine. Yeah, got a slight little, actual little nick up here. It's fine on this side though. But yeah, we just take each razor as it comes. For this, for getting the jimped area, I've got several methods, but most probably what I'll do for this is use a 600 grit greaseless on the buffer and see if that cleans it out. But yeah, it was ground in Sheffield apparently, and you can read it clearly now. Joseph Rogers and Sons, Cutlers to Their Majesties, number 6 Norfolk Street, Sheffield. It's got an England around there, so it's after 1890. And yeah, more polishing, whatnot, but that will do. I'll just show you this razor, give you a bit of a close up on it. Get a bit of a focus there, and there we go. And you can see this area here. I don't know how well that's coming out in camera. It's a bit marked up here around the pivot area. It's not so bad there. So I have to make a decision really. Am I going to take this out? Because it will be a bit of work. I'll take it on the belt grinder, and then it'll have to go through a progression of polishing compounds to get rid of the belt grinder marks to make that 100%. So that's something I'll think about. And you can see the blade here on a close up. Okay, I think we'll do this part right now with the 600 grit, 600 greaseless, and see how it looks. So we'll just do that quickly. And I'll just whack these on and we'll have a go. Right, that's okay, but we're going to have to go for another method to try and get right in this corner up here. I'm not going to be able to do it on this. It's nice and solid, and just hanging below that got the Dremel. So just use one of these copper brushes Let's see what happens. And there you go. I think that'll do. Needs a bit of a polishing, but that's quite clean. So we're just polishing there as best we can. If I want to use the Dremel again with a polishing wheel to get right up in there, I'll do that. But I think we're going to try and get rid of this this dark stuff around here. Try and make these as pretty as possible. So we'll take them to the belt grinder. Right, I'm just going to take off some of the marking that's on the tang on these. I've done this to all the blades so far. This is the last one. Just put the tangs on the belt grinder. So I'm going with this A30 Trizact, and it's the equivalent of a 800 grit belt. It's really worn, but the new ones really want to use for the belt face, for the razor faces, and the worn ones used for tangs and things like that. So fairly slow speed. There's not a lot to it really. Just like that. Really, that will do for that. And just move up a grit. This is a 1600 grit equivalent. Again, it's a worn one. I've got one more after this. It's 2500, but I won't go there because after this I'm going to go on the polishing on the buffer. It's just like honing really. You just want to take out the previous grit, the previous scratches. Just getting finer and finer. But these ones should come out with polishing. Right, I'm back at the buffer, and so far on this razor, as with all of them, I've give it a go with the green just to see what needed to be done. I've done the jimping with the greaseless, and I've done the tangs on the belt grinder, so now it's ready just to be finished really. So I'm going to go with the green, and then I'll go with a blue, and then a white, and the razor should be done. So I'll just pop this mask on and we'll get going. And also what I've done to all the scales, and I was on the 7th set last night and then I realised I didn't film it, so I stopped. You can see I hadn't gotten to the inside yet, but what I'm doing to them, because they've got scratches and stuff, so I'm starting with a 600 and I'll just take a bit of 600 and I'll use this. Just bring this water here, just use a bit of water and just remove the rust and the filth. If this was just an individual razor I was working on, I wouldn't do it like this. I'd have it like that and I'd have tape there and I'd be doing all this business, but so I'm doing so many, I can't be messing about with individual pieces of tape on every single one of them, so just do it and get it done. Plus it gives you a chance to make sure your wedge end is flat. That's probably the most important thing. Plus we just want fresh plastic. We don't want that old, I don't know where it's been or whatever. And that will do, I suppose. And on the top side, same thing. All the work is done on the coarser grit. Same as honing really. And the plastic's beveled, these scales are beveled, so get the bevel parts. And make sure we come all the way around. And then we'll move up to a 1200, so we'll double up, go from 6 to 12. You take out 6k scratches. And with the 12 as well, just get the inside edges just to make sure that's all smooth. And that'll be fine. And then to finish, I think this is 2500 grit. And then when this is finished, we'll take it on the buffer, and that should bring it up nice and shiny. They should be just like new, brand new scales. So there you go. So just quickly as well, what I'm doing with every wedge, I'll just take a bit of tape and don't lose too much off it, but I just want everything clean. So plus you can see how flat it is, and so do a bit of this. Just to clean it up a bit. And because I've sanded down the scales a little bit, this should actually protrude slightly, so when it's pinned, that's when we'll clean off the outer side, but the inside part we do now. It's quite difficult to not create a shape, just to keep it flat doing this action, but that will be fine. I'll probably take it onto a higher grit as well, just to make it look a bit, not that anyone would ever look down there really, but just give it a high finish. And that really would do it. I'm going to do some pinning now and show you what I do. I've got my brass rods. These are from America, so they're 1/16 of an inch, and this is obviously a Sheffield razor, and the closest we've got to 1/16 of an inch is 1.5 millimeters. But I actually think these were slightly smaller than that even, unless it was just filth in there. But I had to drill out the holes. I drilled them out with 5/64 bit, so it's quite wide, but it's a problem for the collars, because the collars are, the hole is too small to get on there. So what I've been doing is take a pin vise, and this has got it's diamond coated, and then I place the collars on the pin vise, and it takes, you've got to be really gentle, not to squeeze too hard, not to push too hard, because the collar will collapse. And so it can be quite painstaking, but you've got to, I have to widen it a little. And I mean, I've been doing this one earlier, so I know it does fit, so I put one on. I say that, but yeah, it does. And we go for the wedge end, do the wedge end first. Best to move that out of the way. And just check what way this wedge goes. Definitely that way, is it? Yep. So wedge goes on, this goes on, and I'll slide the collar up. Slide that collar as far up as I can, and it's a little bit fiddly, but what am I doing? Let me just get the other collar on there. If I can pick it up, this is actually two collars, and it doesn't want to go on. Just try and taper that slightly. And it's kind of gone on. I'll give it a little hand. There you go. So it's on, but see if I can slide it down. Yeah, we're good. I just caught myself there, but anyway. And slide that along. Just gone the wrong way, so we go back to this end. I do this by sight. I know how much I want protruding to give me the effect I want, or so this, I know if I just snip it there, hopefully, yeah, that's just about perfect. So I just take down this side, and if ever you're worried about sanding these things down, scratching the scales, one thing you can do is just do really small movements, and that will ensure you can't slip like that. But I'm okay. fine. Right, so then what I'll do is I'll just give this a few taps quickly just to make sure the collars don't fall off. So if you just bear with me there. Won't take a lot, just when I barely got the collars on in the first place, so a few taps should be good. And then we can pin the pivot end. So I'll just snip that off. And make sure it's flat, which it is, and then actually taper it a bit. I'll just knock off any overlap, and then we'll have to try and see if this goes on there. They seem alright going on backwards really, because it's the smooth side, and this one nearly goes on, so this one's got, they all have to be widened, there's no getting around it. So I guess if you want to make a cup of tea or something, there's the time. But just really lightly. Yeah, you gotta have patience. Right, let's see what that's done. Right, so that collar's on. That's good. Get the collar on. No washers on these. Get that on. And what I'll do, just use a bit of tape, because I'm going to need this when I'm pinning, just to keep this blade here, stop it falling through or knocking about. Just keep that there, and then I can get on with this. Right, so I need another double collar. This looks a good one. This should have gone on the A side really. See if it wants to be kind. Oh yes, that one's gone on. So just get my distances. I want that coming through that much, and I know what I'm doing with these. Basically where you cut with these clippers, it will actually take more, so you've got to compensate for that. And I think if I cut it about there, let's bring it out a fraction, and at the same time hold it against my stomach, stop it from flying off, and then I'll just sand this down. And then I'll just give this a few taps. And that's it, it's ready for pinning. Right, pinning. I've put a bit of tape there to keep the blade, because the blade's going to fall through, pop out, or hit the scales. It's really delicate edge as well, thin, full hollow. So just keep everything in place there. Hopefully none of these collars will fall off. I've given them a few taps. So what I like to do, because I like my pins quite tall, I tend to come in from the sides a lot, and so I just make these out of tape just to try and protect the scales a bit. You can see previously where the hammer's been hitting the scale, so that's how I can come in at like a side angle. There we go, let's push the collar down a bit. I'm just tapping, and it's basically, I'm looking to hit the edge. I'm looking to hit the edge of the ball peen on the edge of the pin. And the way I do it is it's all done by sound, really. I know where I'm hitting by the sound. So I know if I've gone too far, and I just go anti-clockwise, and you know, you can lift it. If it's really tall, you can really get on the edge. But I'm basically tapping the scale at the same time I'm tapping. That's how far over I am. I'm coming at it like that, so I really am hitting the edge. And I think probably you don't have to go as gentle as people make out, really. Obviously you don't want to be whacking it, but I mean, this brass is quite soft anyway, really. Although these are really good quality pins that I got from the States. I got them from a like an industrial manufacturing company, and really good quality. And I can see as well, it will show me which bit is not as peened over as another part, and I can maybe do a few more taps there. So I've started the process there and it's going well, and then what I'll do is I'll come down and I'll pin the wedge end to almost really tight, to where I can just move the wedge, and then I'll come back and start work on the top end. But try and get the wedge in place a bit, and we start down here. Also as well, because the pin's quite tall, I'm not hitting the scale at the moment, but as it goes down, mushrooms out, I'll be getting closer and closer, then I will be tapping on the scale as well. But the pin will be taking all the impact, and it would just be a slight grazing on the scales, otherwise I would have destroyed lots of scales by now. But and I've cut this, and I'll come back to it when I'm near enough done. Right, so I've pinned the wedge end, and you can see, as I said, the wedge now protrudes. That's because it's beveled, and I've sanded the underside. It's obviously shrunk the more I've sanded it. So we'll take that off on the belt grinder eventually, and that should be nice fresh lead. And working at the top end now, and they're nearly tight. It's still loose, but basically at this point I'm not worried about tightening it or anything like that. All I'm concentrating on is how it looks, is the aesthetics. So I want the pin to be what I'm looking at is how much of the collar is showing, and I want it even all the way around. But not only that, it's got to match that side. So I can straight away see that this side is not it's not as mushroomed out as that side. And what I do as well, just to alleviate the pressure off the pin of the scales pushing on it, just if I take these off and just bind that tightly. That just stops the scars pushing up on the pins, so it will pin a lot quicker now as well on this last part, because there's nothing pushing back on the pins. I'm not hammering, you know, the pin and the scars pushing on it, so I'm pushing that down. No, the scars are fully taut in the opposite direction. So now here's where I'm trying to come in at an angle as well. And I think the geometry on these razors, they all seem perfect, so I won't have to worry about making them line up. And I don't mind over tightening them, because pins generally loosen like a day or two afterwards. Plus I'm going to be putting oil in there. When these are, before I hone these, the first thing I do is drop oil down in that area, because that's the first place to rust. And you can hone a razor, not realise it, just a drop of water can get in there and it will rust up. That would do, but we obviously check if it's tight, because that is another consideration, and that's the whole point really. So just remove this tape. It's supposed to have not a lot of sticky to it, but it does. And yeah, that's not bad. That's quite tight. Oh, it centres. So we will now keep going. We'll get that really tight, and just working on the shape, that will tighten it up fully. And yeah, that's the beauty of metal and plastic with no washer. That's tight. That's really tight. And it centers nicely. So I can't really see that coming loose, but because what I'm going to do after this is take these to the buffer, and once they've been polished, I don't want to put a hammer on them again, so let's go for over tightening without breaking the scales. And these are light taps, so now this side I've got to catch up on. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the wedge end is secure, that's fine. We save these for later, 1 day and 6 to go, but now, yeah, no, that is really tight. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Look, there's no, that's not coming loose, and it centers, so that's perfect. Right, so I've just took the pin in to the buffer, and I've buffed up these pins, but in between the pin and the collar you're going to get compound, and also the brass itself will, well, if it was white scars it'd be a different story, but basically it's covered in muck now, so I've got to clean it off. So what I use, I've got these alcohol swabs, and for this sort of thing, so I just want it purely clean, I just use alcohol and just get the whole area. You see it's up on the up on there. That's why some people don't like using the buffer for the pins, but for me, yeah, it gives an unbeatable look, so I don't mind. Just try and clean off. You can see it quite easily, it's just black. We want all that gone, but I'll try and show you, give you a better look at the pinning. If it will focus in well, I don't know if it's doing that, but the pinning is spot on. It's like it's showing a perfect gap all the way around between the pin and the collar, so it looks really good. It wasn't that good from new, so I've outdone these people, but probably they were doing thousands a day anyway. But yeah, that's nice. And the wedge, I took the wedge to the I used the belt 1600 grit, so a really fine belt, and just leveled the wedge, so it's fresh lead, clean. Let's try and get all this area. Probably hit the blade somewhere as well, I guess. Right, that looks good. And then if I wanted to, or whatever, got my alcohol swabs. But it's a long process as well, from getting it honed and oiled, and most importantly I want to take photographs, so they've got to be pristine. So you know, it's quite a long process, all this business. That's good. And then I've actually run out of the really fine tissues I've got at the moment, so I'm just using a towel. But this is it now, until it gets honed. I mean, that's it, and that really is pristine. It's a beautiful razor, and by the time I've honed it, it will shave so well. So I don't think you could put a price on something like this personally. Drop some oil in there. As I say, the oil is just for the rust, because if water does drop in there when I'm honing it, overnight that will rust inside there. So we want to make sure that never rusts. But also I've got to take into consideration I need to take photos, so I can't have oil all over the place. But yeah, that's ready for honing now. Right, here we are with the finished article. The box, I sanded it down and gave it a couple of coats of red root oil because the wood's quite pale, and I treated it with some beeswax and olive oil mixture, So that's the external part. The internal, I used a fabric sanitizing spray which kills 99.9% of all bacteria. So it's hygienically clean, it smells nice. I took these hinges off, gave them a clean. All of the razors have been honed. I honed these all last night on the Azuku, and I believe they will all give amazing shaves. So I'm really glad about that. The geometry on them is excellent. It was a pleasure to hone them. There's some oil up in the pivot area, and they're all tight and they all centre. So it's just a job well done. They're all good to go, and you know, anyone would be proud to have and shave with these. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching. And I'm Joseph for Edge Dynamics.